Hey yo, what it do, people? What's good? It's your boy Kevin Wright, aka Kev on Mission, coming back at you after a little bit of a hiatus. I do apologize for keeping you as long as I have. I did not intend to stay off the rest of January and all of February, but now here we are in March and we back. Come through, Jesus, won't he do it? And we're gonna continue to keep it moving. I've got some really dope things coming down the pike. I've definitely been in talks with some more individuals to have come through as guests. And even earlier today, I had a chance to talk to my boy Madi, who was the last person you've seen on this channel. And the next time I'm around Blacksburg, which is where he is currently, when I get down there later next month, we're going to make an attempt to get him around here for part two, because there's definitely some dope stuff on his end. So there's also some other peeps I plan on bringing through, and I probably mentioned some of them. And some of you who see this, and if you are wanting to come through and hang out and see what we can see, please let your boy know. We'll talk more about that as time moves along. So I want to do a couple of things with this video. So now I've given you some updates of what's going on. I want to give you a personal campus update. Yesterday, I was on campus and it's been really cool. Like these last couple of weeks being on campus and being involved with the Impact Movement Bible Study and spending time with our students there and being involved with our crew staff, team meetings, and just being able, we get a chance to build some community more on a more personal front next week, which is going to be dope. And just being on campus, I've gotten a really renewed sense of hope and I've always, as I've said in previous videos, that the mission is not canceled. The mission never stopped. We've been able to, in spite of everything happening throughout this current season, like the mission never did stop. We definitely have had to pivot many times. However, the mission never stopped and the mission is continuing to move forward. The Lord is on the move. People are hearing about Jesus. People are surrendering and giving their lives to the person of Jesus, and the gospel is going forth and people are hearing the good news of Jesus, and that's a really beautiful thing. In addition to that, I'm just really excited. So let's again talk about yesterday. So I was on campus yesterday. I got off of my tent making job because this week was a different schedule than normal, and I normally am off on Tuesdays, but now yesterday I had to work, plus that was the end of a 7-day work marathon. Now I'm off for a little bit to celebrate my birthday and to spend time with our staff team next week, so that'll be dope. Hallelujah. So going back to the getting off of my tent making job at Walmart, getting to campus and just settling in, I was thirsty, so like right now I'm gonna grab a drink of water like I did yesterday. I got me a drink of water, had me some nuts and some bananas and blueberries, and I also proceeded to call a friend. So while I'm on the phone with my friend, a familiar face walks up to me, and this is somebody who was a part of our crew movement back when I first came around. So this is like at least 10 years ago, and they haven't been around our movement lately at all. Like they don't currently come to our movement. They don't currently do stuff, but they just happen to be on campus working on some stuff, and they heard my voice and they decided to come over and say hi. So I had a chance to catch up with them, asked them how they were doing, and they proceeded to share how they were doing and some different things. And because I was on the phone with a friend, he obviously was gracious enough to pause while I had the conversation. And as he heard the conversation begin to go a certain point, he took his earbuds out and began to intercede. And I had no idea this was happening. Of course, I'm just in this conversation. I'm encouraging and saying what I need to say to this person as I'm hearing more about what's going on. And then eventually he goes back to his work and I get back to my call. He says, yeah, see, look at that. You had somebody that was able to pray for you while you were sharing. Like that's the whole point of us doing this work we do on the field. And then the fact that Somebody was on the phone that was able to pray and understand, like, wait a second. Like, they knew it was getting to a certain point. They took out their earbuds so they didn't have to pry, not to be nosy, not to be trying to hear what they didn't need to hear. And as I'm even thinking about that now, that's commendable, because I know a lot of folks that will call themselves being curious, and they definitely ain't finna pray. They definitely ain't finna to seek the Lord on nobody's behalf. They want to be nosy, and then they want to run their mouth and tell it. So I can commend people like my boy Donovan Charlo, who took himself away from the conversation and decided to intercede for the conversation. So those are the types of people you need in your corner. And so that was the beginning. Then after that, I go upstairs to meet with my team lead in the JC. Well, I was in the JC the whole time. I go to meet with my team lead, Brett Miller, in the JC. While I'm waiting for him, another one of my teammates, Ian, comes up, and we proceed to talk about a recent video I recorded where I interviewed two good friends of mine, Lonnie Camacho Jr. and Samuel Cantillo. And I'll get to more about them in a minute. But I had a chance to interview them recently because they're currently interning with crew overseas in a location I will not disclose. I will not say where they are, but they are serving with crew overseas. And I had a chance to interview them and talk about that because we're currently in the movement here at George Mason concerning our encouraging our students to live life on mission, encouraging our students to go on summer mission. We're also encouraging some of our students to intern after they graduate and all types of stuff. So this is just one more tool that we're going to be able to have at our disposal to be able to encourage students who are considering answering the call to go overseas and to go serve in this capacity. So it's going to be really cool when we get that video done and we can get that to them. So after I finish that, my team lead comes up. We talk through some things, and then I meet up with Michael, who he and we lead together with the Impact Movement. So we had a chance to talk through some more things, and then we had a chance to actually go to Bible study, lead Bible study, and then have dinner with the students, which we've been talking about ways to build community and to really find ways to intentionally build bridges, because it's really necessary. And so it's been some good stuff being able to do that and just seeing how things will continue to move and go. So that's a good thing. Then after that, I eventually proceed to make my way home. In the last conversation I'm having, as I'm getting ready to go home, I run into somebody who's like, wait, I've seen you around here before, don't you? We talked about you volunteering. And I said, yeah, I do. I'm on staff. And then just as that happens, that conversation is starting, my friend Alex calls me, who's on staff with crew in DC, to talk with me about catching up in a couple of days, because we're going to celebrate my birthday and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I appreciate peeps like Alex who want to be present and hang and celebrate my birthday. So we talked about that, and I was telling him how the day went and about Bible study and stuff. And so after I finished that conversation, this person is still, and he's like, oh, wait, you did a Bible study? He says a non-denominational Bible study. And so we proceed to talk about different things. And I asked him if he was a Christian. He said yes. And he said, it's good to see young people. Well, wait, I'm sure I'm older than you. And I said, well, do you mind if I ask how old you are? And he said, I'm 59. I'm like, okay, you are older than me. But that's a different conversation for a different day about why sometimes it's not always easy with me for people to determine that they're older than me, because sometimes they're not, but that's a whole different conversation. So we're talking, and we're talking about, we find out we are both Christians. We find out we both have given our lives to Jesus, and talking about what Jesus has been doing this past year during this wild and crazy season of a pandemic with COVID-19, coronavirus, and all that stuff. And just how, things that have been happening. And ultimately, he was saying how he believes that better days are ahead as we trust Jesus. And I mean, in short, I mean, it's not, obviously nothing is as cut and dry as what I just put it. There are definitely layers of things, but at the end of the day, there is a genuine assurance that we can trust the Lord to see us through this current season of craziness and future seasons of however things turn. We can trust, come what may, the Lord's going to do what he's going to do. And as we partner with him to do what he wants to do on this earth, that we're going to get to be a part of him turning things the way he wants to turn them. So that being said, I want to reflect on this past year as far as how crazy it's been with the coronavirus and the COVID-19 pandemic, because today, like right now, as I'm sitting here talking to you about this video, a year ago today is when it was starting to really hit home, like, oh, snap. Like, we're definitely in for some wild stuff. So let me backtrack to December of 2019, where December 27th, 2019 to be specific, I was at Baltimore, and a bunch of other crew staff was at Baltimore because we were preparing for the next couple of days as our winter conference was about to go down. And my boy Brandon Tusing, who I actually had a chance to speak with earlier today, we agreed to meet for dinner. So we met for dinner, we hung out, we talked, then we went to the staff orientation for the conference. And then then at that point it was crazy. I got to meet new people, catch up with some people, and all of that good stuff, right? So all of that goes down. Then finally I get to my hotel room where nobody's really at. And then finally these two dudes come in, and one of them comes in and says, "Hey, yo," and he says, "Yo, are you our roommate?" I said, "Yes." He says, "My name is Samuel Cantillo." And the other one was like, "Yo, my name is Lonnie." So that's Lonnie Camacho. So we were roommates at Winter Conference. It was really dope. I believe I've talked to y'all about that before, so you can go back to that. And so on January 1st, 2020, as I was getting ready to leave, I was talking with Lonnie. I said, "Hey, I have an idea, because I have to work a few days on my tent making job because his birthday is actually tomorrow, March 11th. And I was like, I got to work a few days prior, so I won't be going on the spring break trip, because crew at George Mason was going on 2 spring break trips. One was going to be in Panama City Beach, Florida for big break, which is a really dope thing. And then some of our other teammates were going to be heading to Bogota, Colombia. And because I had to work a couple days, I wasn't going to be heading on either trip. And so I said, "Hey, your birthday's the 11th, my birthday's the 12th. I have to work a few days prior, so I could probably get up to you guys at Cornell and spend a few days with you guys, because you guys are not going to be on spring break. I'll get to hang out on campus. I'll get to see how God's doing things with your crew movement. And then, of course, Lonnie, your birthday's coming up. We can celebrate your birthday, and then we can hang out for mine, and that would be cool." And so we talked about it then, and over the coming weeks and months, we began to make a plan. Plans became solidified. Lodging was arranged. This was arranged. And I decided, you know what? Given that Ithaca's further upstate than New York City, I began thinking, you know what? I'll just fly, because flying is actually much easier. It was an hour-long flight, so it was definitely the best move. So everything's crazy. I mean, everything's cool. I'm thinking like, yeah, we get to do this. This is going to be really dope. So days leading up to me flying, so I decided I was going to come up on March 10th, which is today, a year ago today. So days leading up to me getting ready to leave to head up to Syracuse, which is the airport I flew into, days leading up to it, you're starting to hear more things on the news about how, like, there's this COVID-19, the coronavirus, and it's in the United States, and it's making its way around. And So I'm like, man, that's really wild. And I remember at the end of January, there was actually, because there was a student and it, from overseas, from China, who was at George Mason, and it was suspected that he had it. Come to find out, he didn't, but they weren't sure. So there was already like one situation where it's like, oh, okay. So, but at that point, other than that, there really wasn't too much going on. But now we're nearing this point we were last year, and you're starting to hear more things in the news, and it's like, oh, okay, snap. Like, all right. And at this point, because that student didn't end up having it in Virginia, and there were no known cases in Virginia, and this was so March 6th and 7th, so over the weekend. And so I remember Sunday, March 8th, I go to church like I do just about every Sunday, prior to the current situation. So I am in church, we're sitting in church, and somebody in our church is talking about ways to be affectionate without having to touch people, because at this point in time they're talking about how this is an airborne type virus, and at that point people really didn't know what to do. So I was like, oh, okay, so we'll see what's going on. Next day I go to work, and we have visitors, but of course we're being told things like everybody else being told. Hey, wash your hands, and every time you don't have customers, wash your hands. Make sure you keep your distance, and all, because they're starting to talk about staying away from people and all that stuff. But other than that, there's really nothing major. And so then we have visitors at the store, and I think nothing of it. So then the next day, March 10th, I get up early because I'm like, my plane was leaving at like 9:45. And so I get to the airport around 7:30, Reagan National. Normal day. It didn't really take long to get to the airport. Didn't really take too long to get through baggage check. So I'm chilling at the airport. I get on the plane. It's a Tuesday, so it's not really crowded. So I was seated by some people, but because the plane wasn't crowded, I got moved to my own space. I'm like, yes, won't he do it? So I'm sitting down, chilling in my own space. The flight's about an hour. I get to Syracuse. I hit up Lonnie, yo, I'm here. And he says, okay, I'll be there in a little bit. I'll be just coming out of a staff meeting. Cool. So Lonnie shows up. And it's cool because while I'm waiting for Lonnie to show up, I started thinking about my friend Carmen Galliano, her and her husband Mike, who I've known them for a while. She had recently reshared a blog about how her husband asked her about how so many times she goes out of her way and how sometimes she does it too often. And her response is like, how else are you going to find people who actually get you? And I'm thinking about that because at this moment, like, I'm literally going out of my way to go to upstate New York and spend time with some people who I had a really dope friendship / brotherhood bond with. So here we are. And so I'm thinking through that. So then finally Lonnie arrives and we jump in his van and we go grab Chick-fil-A, and it's cool. We grab lunch like normal. Hey. And so we had also planned to go watch a movie. So we leave Chick-fil-A, we go watch a movie, and the movie was Knives Out, a really dope movie. If you have not seen it at this point, you definitely should. So we leave the movie theater, we go to wash our hands and stuff real quick, and so as I'm washing my hands, Lonnie walks up to me and says, Kevin, I just got some really wild news. And I said, hey, what's that? He said, I just got a whole bunch of gnarly messages, and apparently Cornell University has made their decision of how they're going to respond to these rising cases of the coronavirus. I said, oh, what do they plan on doing? And he says, this week is a normal week and next week is spring break, so they're going to finish out this week. However, after that, they're going to send everybody off campus and make the rest of the semester a remote semester. Yo, say what? Wait, are you serious? Like, what? And so I'm like, man, like, that's really crazy. Man, I'm like, dang, and this is my first day here. Like, up until this point, I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is gonna be a normal visit. Like, we're just gonna hang out. We're gonna, I'm gonna get to see campus life and all of that. So then I get this news, and I'm like, all right. So then we leave. We also, before we go to Cornell, we were gonna go visit SUNY Cortland, another state school in New York, because Cornell University crew does some stuff with them. So Lonnie had a community group, so we got to go there and meet with some guys there. And at that point, SUNY Cortland had not made any decisions yet, so they didn't hear anything. So it was a pretty normal day for them. So we're sitting there, we eat dinner, we hang out, we run to Walmart, we drop some stuff off at the place I'm going to be staying. And then we proceed to head over to Cornell, which is around the corner, for what would have been a normal day. Because at this point, the day's really not normal. Like, the day started off normal, but as you can see, it slowly began to unravel as we got that news. So now I get to this, what's supposed to be a staff and student meeting, which turns into a time of processing and time of expressing concern and even some lamenting and crying, and then, spending time in worship and just really processing, like, wait, like, this is really serious. Like, the school's going to be shutting down and going remote. Like, what are we going to be able to do, like, with some of the ministry stuff we plan for? Then you have people who have, like, issues with immune and compromising. Like, what are we going to do, and what's going to happen? Like, very real things, because like I said, at this point, like, it's just so sudden. And I remember, and it's crazy because, like, so there were students who I had met at winter conference who didn't know I was coming, because I didn't really say too much to them. But as they find out I'm here, I'm walking into this meeting and they're seeing, oh snap, my friend Jordan Bryant, we starting to talk. He's like, oh man, like, I didn't know you was gonna, yeah, I just got here. And so I remember we had a time of prayer while we were processing things. And I remember I'm in the circle with this one dude, Daniel Masleon, who was leading worship at winter conference, because the Cornell worship team was leading worship. And I said, hey man, remember all them songs you were singing? How the Lord is my light and my salvation, singing that William Murphy stuff. And now look at this, like, this is the time where all that stuff is going to come to play. So it was a really cool night of meeting people. And so that was day one. And day two, March 11th, Lonnie's birthday, we get to hang out some. I get to explore downtown Ithaca, and we get to go to this Ethiopian restaurant and grab some food to celebrate his birthday. We get to go grab some dessert. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun. But of course, like, now we're walking around like, man, we're in a pandemic. And plus, March 11th last year was when they had said that, no, we're officially in the global pandemic. This thing has made its way around the world. And every day, the next day was my birthday, I had a chance to see campus, and I had the chance to explore the campus. And I even had people from Columbia reaching out, telling me happy birthday. I'm saying, hey, how you guys holding up? Like, what's going on? Because at this point, like, it's very apparent, like, trips are getting canceled. Like, Lonnie was supposed to have left on the 13th to go to a trip, and that trip had gotten canceled. And on the 13th, the very next day, crew had officially made decisions that there would be no summer missions. There would be no travel at all, at least through the end of July. So it was starting to get, oh snap, like, every day was getting really serious. And then within those couple of days too, between the 11th and the 13th, we also were finding out how there was going to be gathering limitations placed, which was going to mean something as far as, like, even people going to church. Is that, we've seen how a year later, we've seen how that's played out. So all of that's starting to hit while I'm there. And it's just a crazy thing to think about how that was where I was as things are starting to unravel. And it's crazy to sit here now, like a year later, and while we're still walking through this pandemic, where there are still certain aspects that we don't know how things are going to turn. Of course, now there's a vaccine, so people are talking about vaccine. There's other things going on, but at the end of the day, we really don't know how long this particular season's going to be, what it is. And that's not even talking about other stuff that's happened since then, but I won't get into all of that right in this particular video. I just wanted to take some time to go back. And I was thinking more about doing that because my friend Heather Holloman, her and her husband Ashley Holloman, wrote a book called Sent. I'm actually about to go through this book with a friend of mine not too long now. So that's also what encouraged that first story I told you about with that student. So this book here, I've been on Ashley and I've been on Heather Holloman's because this is the first time her and her husband wrote a book together. But Heather Holloman's been writing books for a little bit, and I've had the privilege to be on her launch team every time a book's come out. So there was not going to be anything different. I was on the launch team with Sent, and I already have had a chance to dig into some of the book before, and it was fuel for that first conversation. And this is also a really cool season where I'm beginning to be aware and reminded again about just what God's doing, about taking opportunities to be able to speak the truth of the Lord to people, with the people we see and the people around. And I'm excited to even be able to do that on Friday, even as I go and celebrate my birthday with some people. And either way that ends up being able to go, I'm excited to be able to do that. So we shall see what the Lord shall do in this upcoming evening. But I want to encourage you that the Lord's still doing his thing. The gospel's still going forth. And as far as being involved with campus ministry and college campus, the mission is not canceled. God is at work. And there's a lot to say. And at some point, I'll talk to you about more of that. I'll have to talk to you about winter conference that happened earlier last month. And there's a whole lot of things I could definitely talk to you about with how God's been encouraging some things. But I wanted to take a moment to reflect on this last year. And I wanted to take a moment to, again, share some stories and just encourage you. God's doing this thing and he's not going to stop. So as always, if you are encouraged by this content, you're encouraged by the story, there's some things you can do. If you have not already done so, you can like this video. You can also subscribe to this video, and you can ring the bell, ring all the bells so you can get all the notifications. And also you can shout out to me. KevOnMission2.0@gmail.com is my email address. Shoot me an email. Shoot me some comments. Shoot me some stuff to let me know what's good, what's going on, what the Lord has been doing with you in this season. So, we back. For those of you who have supported this whole time, thanks for your support. And we end this thing. All right, now, talk to y'all soon. Peace.